My name is Payne Johnson, and I'm from San Diego, California. And I'm here to have a conversation with Jean-Charles Boisset, and particularly interested in Buena Vista Winery because it's a winery that I was introduced to Zinfandel some 40 years ago. So why don't you tell us a little about what you're doing?
Well, Payne, it's a pleasure to meet you, and it's a pleasure to talk about Buena Vista because for you, 40 years ago, was for me actually 1981. I had the incredible pleasure to come to California with my grandparents, who really wanted my sister and I to have the most unbelievable experience of being in the United States and feeling the energy of this amazing country. So we did a big tour of the West Coast, and we were in San Francisco, and they said the trip could never be complete unless you toured Sonoma and you went to see where the independence of California got declared and the birth flag republics, in 1846, and then the independence in 1848, 1850. So we went on the square in Sonoma, and this was an amazing experience. We booked in little hotels, and as we walked around, my grandparents realized, as we were born in Vougeot, in the heart of Burgundy, at the feet of the Chateau du Clos Vougeot, they said, we're going to have to tour a winery. So we look at a sign, and it's written Buena Vista Winery. So unbelievable. We walked there. It was close to a mile. It was an absolutely lovely walk, till we arrived to this amazing winery, old stone, gravity flow, with amazing caves.
With a stream in front of it. Beautiful place.
Gorgeous stream,
Yeah.
exactly. And I was 11 years old in 1981, and my sister was 15. And I would not know that such historical building had been erected, over 150 years ago.
Did you know that you were at the first winery in
I
California?
did not know till we got in, and we got an incredible tour and a very engaging guide who really brought us into the history of California. And my grandparents were history teachers and teachers, so obviously it was really phenomenal as an experience. And we went into the caves, they tasted the wines, and we had made wine, my sister and I, since really the age of 5 or 6 in Vougeot in Burgundy. So as we got in, we could see my grandparents really opening their eyes to wines that they had never tasted before. And they loved it. So kindly, they bought the wines. We went back to the hotels. They opened the 3 bottles of wine, and they walked us through the same tasting experience. I looked at my sister and I said, one day, wouldn't it be fun to come back to California and make wine?
Oh, boy.
So when you think about 1981 and you fast forward to really 2011,
Right.
I had been fascinated by the history of Buena Vista since really 11 years old. Have tried to buy the winery 3 times, did not succeed till last year. So bringing Buena Vista Winery in our collection of wineries with a strong Burgundian feel and historical perspective is important because when you think about California, we always think about 1848, the gold rush, and the beginning of California at that time, which is true. None of us around the world have a true understanding that California has been making wine for over 150 years,
Right.
and is very good at it. So we have been taking a strong interest in California winemaking for a long time. I was very fortunate to have a strong love for America since my grandparents were telling me their resistance story and their Second World War story. And they were telling me, move to the U.S., you should be there instead of being in France.
Well, will you retain the Zinfandel?
Absolutely.
That's
And
like
the
wonderful.
winery had stopped for a while doing it, so we are re-establishing the Zinfandel. So not only that, we've created a wine named the Count of Buena Vista.
Right.
Buena Vista was created by a count from Hungary in
Who
1857.
was sheriff of San Diego before he came here.
Amazing, wasn't it? The first sheriff in California.
Yes.
So as you can see on this bottle that we're trying is the first red blend ever made at Buena Vista. His son took a very strong interest as well in Zinfandel because he was, with his son, the first one to bring Zinfandel to California.
Right.
So we launched an amazing wine called Vinicultural Society Series named Arpad's Zinfandel, which is the name of his son. And that's a Zinfandel which is very soft, very elegant, made in an old traditional way. open-top fermenters. It's actually a Zinfandel made like a Pinot Noir.
Wonderful. Wonderful.
So as you taste it, you have all the spices of Zin, all the great structure of Zinfandel with the softness and the elegance of what Zinfandel is all about because of the winemaking techniques.
Yes.
So we are thrilled because this year, as you came 40 years later, we are actually reestablishing winemaking at Buena Vista, which has not happened in the last 30 years on the site you were in. So those historical caves, the longest vaults ever built in those days, will see again open-top fermentation, barrel aging, and winemaking tours.
Well, you're doing a favor for California history and wine history.
Well, we feel it's so important because, as you know, Payne, you are Chevalier du Tasse de Vin as well from
Right.
Burgundy. And we share obviously the same Burgundian passion. We established Burgundy thanks to the ancestors who've done an amazing work
Right.
to create Burgundy what it is today. They've done that 1,000 years ago. So we need to communicate the history of California to the world of wine. Consumers need to really understand what California's great attributes and strengths are, and at the same time tell them the story of Buena Vista, which is pretty much one of the most interesting there is in the history of wine.
It really is. It's excellent.
So we are publishing a book this year. We went very far because we're passionate about history as you are.
Right.
So not only we've recreated a whole areas of amazing wines around Buena Vista, the Pinot Noir, the Chardonnay, and the Zinfandel from Carneros, but we went as well with many levels, all the way up to $100 of the Count's favorite, Proprietor's Blend, as well as the Vinicultural Society series with all those Zinfandels you referred to. And we decided to write a book as well with Mr. Sullivan, who's written many books on the history of California, so that in about 5 months, as early as January 2013, we will be able to divulge the history of Sonoma.
Well, I demand a signed copy, obviously.
Of course. Well, not only that, you will get it with a bottle of Zinfandel. I promise you.
Couldn't be better. Couldn't be better.
And I'm so glad to see you here today, Payne, doing what you're doing and being so passionate. Because what the wine world is about is people meeting, communicating the history of civilization, the history of culture, the history of people, and telling for the future those stories. So Buena Vista is really the most epic, interesting, and fascinating story of all time.
Well, we want to extend that passion to many more wine drinkers.
Thank you so much. So to Buena Vista, to you, as well as all your friends watching all the great things you're doing.
Thank you for being here.
Pleasure. Santé.